Welcome, everyone. It is Tuesday night. It means Outlawed Live here every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Central Time. My name is Ron Stone with my cohort, Mike Idle. Mike, what's happening, buddy?
Hey, what do we know tonight, everybody? Thanks for tuning in yet again. It's daylight savings time, so you just know the sun's up a little later, and we're 1 week closer to pulling.
Summer and pulling season is just around the corner for sure here. Mike, you weren't here last week.
Nope.
For the podcast, and man, we had some weird audio stuff going on.
Is that right?
You know how you can look down and you can see your picture, my picture at the bottom of the screen, and you see the different folks in the green room that are waiting backstage. Well, there was two of me, and one of my images was reversed, and I had both audio. I had two audios coming from myself coming out, so there was this weird, crazy echo. It was really strange.
Well, you see what it was, that the internet recognized that I wasn't on. So it tried to like AI chat yourself. You were going to be your own co-host. It was trying to give the world two Ron Stones, and you made the other one wait in the green room. You should have brought him on stage. You might have had some good takes.
I tried. I actually did. I could have, and it was totally reversed. You know, if I looked to my right on one image, the other image was looking left. It was so bizarre.
Yeah.
And I couldn't get rid of the extra audio, and I like removed my doppelganger from backstage even, and it still was there. So it was really weird. But anyway, interesting. We were going to have Kim McCarty on tonight from Titan, Maker Goodyear Farm Tires, awesome sponsor with the Outlaws. They sponsor our Young Gun program, which we're going to be talking about a lot more before summer starts. The Young Guns program. Just an awesome program with the Outlaws. It's really lit a fire under our young pullers, and some of those pullers that maybe hadn't even thought about pulling, just going and watching dad pull or mom pull even. All of a sudden they're like, hey, maybe I could do this. And now they've rejuvenated the whole family pulling teams, you know. So we're going to be talking about that. We're never going to stop talking about the young guns. We're also going to talk about veterans and things like that. Your Wayne Longneckers, you know, and your Donald Nelsons and folks like that pull with us. But tonight, without our special guest, and it was a late cancellation, and things happen. You know, I mean, people have lives, and But I went ahead and booked another guest, and it'll be a surprise. How about that, Mike? I'm not even going to tell you who it is.
That works. That works. You know, we can. You're going to put me to the test. How well does Mike adapt on the fly? No, it's all good. You know, the Outlaw family is extensive, and anybody who loves tractor pulling is a good addition to the show. So that's going to be a great time. But yep, young guns and veterans both. We like them of all ages. Here, as a matter of fact, our When the Smoke Clears feature that we'll talk about a little bit later on. You want to talk about some younger generations and some legends all at the same time. You know, we're going to be highlighting Ty Ulmer later on tonight. And, you know, Kirk, Craig, and Ty, that's kind of got all ends of the spectrum when you're looking at legends and younger pullers right there. So, you know, it covers it all.
Yeah, we may even have that on a little earlier since, you know, we don't have our planned guest on. We might switch things up where we usually do that in the latter part of the show.
Sure.
We might do that early on, Mike, if you're good with that.
I think that's a great idea. So, no, we're gearing up for the outdoor season. Ron, what have you been doing to keep yourself from going stir crazy? I've had a couple of projects I've been tackling, getting ready for year number 2 or year number 3, maybe, if you want to call it that way, with the Outlaws for me. Is everything set and ready for you at this point, or do you still kind of tinker with some things?
We still have some loose ends to tie up from a few pulls, still waiting several contracts out there. So that's taken up some of my time, you know, still working with some potential sponsors also. Yeah. And then, you know, this takes up a lot of my time too. This right here, right now, working on the 2025 souvenir program. That's a project, well over 100 pages in that program. And a lot of work goes into that, not just by me, but by others as well. So we got to get that done and have that ready to go before the first pull of the season. So folks can see these programs have become kind of a hot commodity here the last
year. They are. So that's actually where my off-season 2025 preparation is going back through the programs and cataloging, points champions and updating my announcer's notes. And what you notice when you're looking through those is, folks, those really they're a hot commodity for a good reason. That's quite an impressive publication. And I can remember all the way back when I was a kid and I'd go to Outlaw Polls and pick those up. Always been really, really good programs. There's some, they're like 150 pages long, and they've got candid shots and extensive, anybody who hooks with us throughout the year, we make sure to get their picture in there. I know you write up the bios for the points champions, and those are a lot of fun to read, very well put together. But you can learn a lot flipping back through those, a lot of good history in the outlaw programs.
Yeah, and of course, that stuff, you never know, 20, 30, 40 years from now, you got those programs in a box somewhere, you're going to pull those out. Man, that's going to bring back those memories of going to your favorite outlaw hooks. And I know I still have publications from when I was a kid. Man, you open those up and you just see the cover on some of them. Boom, you bring back those old memories.
Oh, yeah.
From when you were a kid going to the pulls. You know what I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah.
Robert Miner checking in from Niobrara, Nebraska. Kevin Davis is watching. He's silent, though. He hasn't said anything. He's just watching, which is totally uncharacteristic for Kevin Davis to just sit there and watch.
Speaking of Kevin, and we've just got the spring pulling bug, I've seen some of those event posters already starting to float around. And we've seen, of course, Kevin Davis, the promoter at the Wayne County Fair. I've seen that one start to float around. I know he's very excited for that. I saw I shared the Threshing Bee out there in McLouth, Kansas. I saw they created an event today. So, Kevin, he gets excited for that, as he well should. And it's fun to start seeing some of those promotional posters start popping up.
Jennifer Ulmer Baith, yay, sweet pain. Heck yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Austin Fluid checking in from Larchwood, Iowa. That's up there in Sweet Pain territory there.
Ty got online earlier and promoted to all his friends and said, be sure to tune into Outlawed Live tonight. And if there's one thing, well, there's a lot of things that crew does right, but among them, their social media presence. That Ulmer Mafia, they do a really nice job kind of pulling back the curtain, showing off to the public what they do and all the work it takes, and just having that extra step that pullers, Jason Schultz always says that the puller is their own biggest promoter, and I think they do a really good job with that.
Yeah, another team that really has stepped up on social media too is the Bullwhip Motorsports team down in Texas.
Yep.
They got somebody handling that page right now, and they're really out there and making a big footprint out there on social media. Ben Beller checking in from Howard, Kansas.
Definitely.
Ben, one of our super fans.
Oh, yeah.
Marty Samuelson, counting down till June. Yes, aren't we all?
Yep.
Counting down till June here. Let's see. I had one here now. Dallas Martin says, can't wait till we come to Jeff City. Well, as much as we'd like to come to Jeff City, we're not scheduled to be in Jeff City. So I think there is a pull there, but not an outlaw event there.
Years ago, Ron, and this was, I was not even out of college yet and just attending everything, just a fan. And I don't know if you were announcing with the Outlaws. They did like the Jeff City pull was like a co-sanctioned NTPA outlaw pull. Do you remember that? NTPA would run a really short show. They would run like 2 or 3 classes. They'd strip the track of all the NTPA memorabilia, line it with outlaw, banners, and then they would actually run an outlaw pull the same night, same track after the NTPA pull down there at Jeff City. So I want to say we've been there before, but it's been some time.
Yeah, I wasn't with the Outlaws at that time, so I honestly couldn't tell you when that was, what year or what era that was, but I had heard that before, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Chris Pierce, one of our fans that watches every week, says, hey,
howdy.
Still need to update some pictures. Well, I'm not sure what that is.
And so I've been working, she could be referring to Keith and his dad, and Jamie's been sending vintage pulling photos.
Okay.
Yes. We're trying to track down some names for. So that's a task that Keith Hammonds has quite the well, and his dad has quite the well of old truck pullers from southern Iowa and northern Missouri. So if that's what she's talking about, hopefully, we can get some more names on those.
Tina Berger, Eric Berger from Wilbur, Nebraska. Super fans that watch the show every week. Kevin Davis, I knew he couldn't stay quiet for long. What do you want? I think he means, what do you want me to say, Ron Study? Never has he ever asked me what I want him to say. He usually just says whatever he's thinking. So, Mark Willis watching from Carrollton, Missouri. Mark Willis watches every week as well. Dick Blank Sport, another super fan watching from Inwood, Iowa. So yeah, a lot of loyal fans that watch the show here every week. And yeah, we're getting close. Mike, why don't we go ahead? Let me clear the screen here. I mean, why don't we go ahead and do the when the smoke clears? Let's do it early.
Sure. Run it early. We'll run it early. It's a legendary tractor. It's a fun family. Let's highlight it. Highlight it early. I'm all about that. So, I used to keep this a secret. I try not to do that anymore. This week's featured puller on the When the Smoke Clears program, it is going to be Ty Ulmer. Now, Ty's another one of those. He got his biography to me a long time ago, and I held on to it for quite a while. I almost wanted to do like a joint biography with Craig and Kurt and put it all together, and just didn't make that happen. And I said, you know what? I've sat on this long enough. I'll just circle back around and we'll feature everyone one at a time. So Ty Ulmer, he's the youngest of the family, and he is going to be your When the Smoke Clears featured puller. Let's take a look at his awesome highlight video, courtesy of the good folks over at Beer Money Pulling. All right, we'll get that hero card up there as well. On When the Smoke Clears, they always provide you with Ron sneaking some pictures. Here we go. You get a hero card, you get your highlight video put together, and Ty's got an awesome biography that he wrote up for us. So he was asked to answer a couple of questions. His rundown is going to look like this. So your featured puller on When the Smoke Clears for the Outlaw social media this week is Ty Ulmer, and he pilots a 7,400-pound modified that they call Sweet Pain. He wants to give a special shout-out. He wants to include some sponsors in here to Richard's Tire Repair and, of course, Ty's Body Shop. It's like I said, it's a 7,400-pound modified, but what's fun and unique about this under the description of the vehicle, this one is, of course, being powered by the 3 Chevys. Now, Ron, it's my favorite question to ask you when we're up there announcing together. Is there any harder running set of triple Chevys out there in the world of truck and tractor pulling?
No, I would say no. No one out there leans on them as hard as these guys do. And I don't think anyone spends as much time trying to tweak those motors to get every last ounce of horsepower out of them they possibly can.
Yeah, it's a fun class in the Outlaws, of course. You can run 3 871 supercharged wedge motors or 2 1471 Hemis. These guys are showing that the Chevys can still get it done with the best of them. He has been pulling. He just finished his 7th year pulling, going into year number 8. His first hook was in Troy, Missouri in 2018. And he doubled down on that answer and said that is also going to be his most memorable hook. He says, my first pass in Troy, Missouri, first hook of the class, took it right out of bounds. He goes, I was introduced to steering the tractor using the brakes. He goes, of course, I dropped to last and won the class with a pretty nice hook. So his very first time out, he takes 2 shots at it, comes back with a walk-off win at the end of the class. I can see where anybody would think that would be their most memorable hook. Points championships. Go ahead, Ryan.
Mike, I was there for that. I was announcing that show in Troy that night.
Sure.
I mean, he made his first hook at 16 years of age. And I think his mom and dad were probably more nervous than he was, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And yeah, he was first puller and he went out of bounds, but he had the option as first puller, came back and won the thing. So yeah, I'm sure it was probably his most memorable pull ever.
Basically, what that says to me is, mom, dad, grandpa, fans, everybody, I just needed one. I needed one mulligan. I needed one look. You know, some people, they'll drive for years to get that feeling and get that first win. He says, hey, give me that first drop and I'll be back at the end of the class. And, you know, there's really been no looking back since when it comes to this tractor. They've won 7 of the past 13 seasons. When asked about their points championships, 7 of the last 13. And he says, obviously, we're gunning for number 8. Biggest pulling hero, he says, you know, doesn't take a genius to figure this one out. It's going to be Dad Craig and Grandpa Kurt. He says, we're quite the superstar team, and I'm proud to be a part of it. I can't remember if it was on this show or on the Let's Grow Pulling, and I think we were speaking with the Massetti family as well. There's one of only like 2 or 3 families that have had a triple generation pull the same vehicle and all grab wins or all grab points championships on it. I know the Massettis out west said they had done it. There was some speculation that the Sullivans out of Kentucky had done it. And then we knew for a fact that the Ulmers going, you know, grandpa, dad, son, all 3 on the same vehicle grabbing. I don't remember if it was a win or points championships. And if you want to do points championships, I don't know if anybody's tripled down on it the way that these guys have.
Yeah, pretty serious business pulling is for the Ulmers. And of course, the Ulmer Mafia, you know, that we coined the term here on this show, the Ulmer Mafia, and it took off. And so many Ulmers in pulling, and they're all awesome pullers. So we just kind of coined that name on the show one night, and it stuck. And I like that hats and T-shirts, all kind of things.
Yeah, I said they wear it on the back of their. I've seen it on the back of their crew shirts and their jerseys out there. And of course, you know, they've got, you know, their Uncle Mark, and then they've got Alan and Tyler as well. I mean, not a one of them, you know, is a slouch in the driver's seat. They all know how to get it done. So 7 of the past 13 seasons, they've had a points championship. Dad and Grandpa are the heroes. Best pulling advice, all caps. He says, turn the mag. I'm not a mechanic. I'm assuming that there is something cool about the magneto or something above my head, but he just says point blank, best advice, turn the mag. So I know that means something to pullers out there, but that's outside my realm of exactly how to apply that. So I just say absolutely. His day job, he is a body shop owner. Another thing that he does a great job promoting on social media is that Ty's body shop that they have is pulling goals. Continue to prove Chevys can still compete by winning championships. The best part about being an outlaw, he says, it's humble, stable leadership with respectful, quality pullers. He says there's fun events and venues and the best classes in pulling. Now, we had one of our When the Smoke Clears guys brought the attention to the loyal fans, and we talk about that all the time, about how we have some of the biggest crowds in pulling. Well, I like what Ty said right here with some of the best classes in pulling. I think pound for pound in today's world of pulling, when you're trying to market something that's both, you know, competitive for the pullers but engaging for the fans, I love that answer. I think we do have some of the best class lineups that you can see out there. So I thought that was a fun response that he put that in there.
I downloaded a few pics here to show of the Sweet Pain track. You grabbed one of them there earlier, Mike, but this one here, I think this is from 2023. And then here's one from 2024. And I just want to point out something. I can't tell exactly where this is at, but look at the wrinkle on the back tires on this picture.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever seen a photo that good of the tires actually going to work. As I see in this picture taken by Mark Ham, one of our photographers, and I went ahead and zoomed in on this thing. Look at the
wrinkle. And they talk about the dragsters, you know, the launch with the top fuel dragsters, and a lot of casual pulling fans don't realize that, but that's remarkable when you can see, you know, there's no such thing as too much horsepower, just not enough traction. Well, he's got plenty of both in this photo.
Yeah, I know a guy who's going to be wanting that picture, and Craig Ulmer, you just contact Mark Ham, but that's the picture going in the souvenir program for this year.
Yeah.
I'll tell
Yeah,
you that. So
that's gold. He
so
says
Mike,
his message.
oh, go ahead,
He
Mike.
says,
I'm sorry.
yeah, we got just a couple more here. He says his message to the fans: get your friends and family to a local outlaw event. He says, come an hour or two early, enjoy an adult beverage, and visit with the pullers. See, touch, and smell the equipment and the atmosphere. It's the best show on dirt. Completely agree. And he says, where to follow social media at Sweet Pain Pulling on Facebook as well as Instagram. So when the smoke clears, you'll be looking at an outlaw. And the outlaw you'll be looking at this week is Ty Ulmer of the Ulmer Mafia. And I can see a pretty cool guest we've got waiting back in the green room. We're going to make some Outlawed live history here. This could be the first time that we have a When the Smoke Clears driver gets to give a live action response to their biography. So this should be fun. Ron, take it away.
Yeah, I had to change things up a little bit too. So I'm wearing
my I dig it. Yep.
Ulmer Mafia hat here. So without further ado, When the Smoke Clears star this week, Ty Ulmer from Larchwood, Iowa. Ty, what's going on, buddy?
Just hanging out in the shop right now. Just got back from the body shop, painted some cars and messaged about it. And I thought, shit, I better get home.
What? I didn't mean to take you away from your work, but what's going on? Are you in the shop where the tractor, where magic things happens with Sweet Pain there?
Yep. So Ty's Body Shop is in Harrisburg, and if you're unfamiliar, Sioux Falls, South Dakota, there's a town just south of there, just a couple miles. That's Harrisburg. That's where my body shop is, and then myself and then my parents live in Larchwood, which is Iowa, just 20 miles straight east of Harrisburg. So,
and then your grandpa lives in South Dakota as well, right?
Yep. So he lives in Menno, which is down by the Yankton, South Dakota area. So he's about hour and a half away from us. So,
is there an Ulmer that's the mayor of Menno? By the way, I mean, if not, there should be. I think.
No, I don't think so. But if there was a polling museum, I'm sure I know who the curator would be.
Yep, the Ulmer Mafia, man. That's that one's going to stick for a long, long time. I think. You got Mark Ulmer, you got Alan Ulmer, you got Kurt, and Greg, and now Ty Ulmer. And I don't know if you saw the whole show, if you were still on your way back to the shop there, but we were talking about your first ever hook there in Troy, Missouri, and how important that was to you. And I was telling Mike, I was there for that. I was on the mic that night. So that was really cool. Who was more nervous, you or your mom that night?
Oh, that's easy. Mom was for sure. She was a little bit of a hot mess. But I'd say I was pretty nervous. You could tell Grandpa was a little nervous. You could tell everybody was just a little bit like unsure, unsure of the unknown type thing. And with everything that, in the end, it was obviously turned out really good. But yeah, in the moment, it was everybody was kind of walking on pins and needles a little bit. So
was it a blessing in disguise drawing that number one? I can't even imagine your first time driving the triple engine mod. You get the first hook of the night, but you kind of earned yourself a bit of a mulligan right there, right out the gate. So did that kind of help? All right, I've driven it out of bounds. What's worse that can go wrong now? Did that play to your advantage? Were you more, did you know time number two that you had it figured out?
Well, yeah. So when they gave out the order and I saw it was number one, that for sure took like kind of a relief, You're like, okay, the worst I can do is come back and do it again. We don't like coming back a lot of times. But we're like now we're really confident that we can come back. We're not going to hurt anything, but when we had that kind of that mulligan in the back of my mind, when it started pulling to the left, I thought, you know what, I can come back from this. Like, obviously did not know how hard to push the brakes, when to push the brakes. And I don't know if you guys have ever driven a tractor with 6,000 horse, but when you open that sucker up, like your brain just kind of goes away and you just are so engaged in the moment. And so there's just a lot of things going through your brain, and the brakes were not something that I was thinking about. So
Yeah, you mentioned, you guys don't like to take an option hook, and you see that on the track, and over the years you get a feel for that. It's like, I don't think you ever want to take that option hook unless something absolutely went wrong. You did something absolutely wrong. But if you just had a really good pull and you think, well, I think I could do better, you probably better stick with that first hook. But obviously, in this instance, you went out of bounds, so
yep.
it was a pretty obvious choice.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you can tell the guys with the experience, the teams with experience, they won't draw that take that option hook unless something just absolutely went wrong on that first pass.
Yeah, and hindsight on that run, we were having a little bit of like brake issues. Our rotors are pretty smooth and warped, and we had a bunch of leaking brake fluid. So when I came off the track, obviously first thing I was like, okay, I probably screwed up. Like, I'll be honest, I've never done this before. I'm pretty inexperienced. And we started looking around. There's brake fluid all over the rotors, and so on the second run, we actually pointed the sled away from that left chalk line, and so I did a big banana, just because our brakes weren't moving like they should have. But I still could have hit them earlier and harder. But yeah, hindsight, it was like kind of a little bit of relief. I'm like, okay, maybe I don't suck at this. I just we've just got a little bit of issues to work on. So
I recall a pull a couple of years ago. I can't remember where we were at, and your dad used the excuse that you weigh a little bit more than him, and with him in the seat, you could put like a little 5-pound or 10-pound weight on the front and give you a little more advantage. How often does he use that excuse, Ty?
Not very often. We're not that different. I think we're 10 pounds, maybe 12 pounds. I'm probably 10, 12 pounds heavier. And you might be thinking of White Rate this year. We put that, in that picture behind Ron, we put 3 fuel tanks, individual fuel tanks on, because our fuel pumps are pretty small, and we're running out of fuel pump to feed these things. And so for White Rate, we put it on, I think it was Saturday night. And I usually drive Saturday nights, and that extra fuel tank added more weight in the wrong spot, and we still had our fuel tank in the way back. And I knew we were a little bit light on Friday, and so I just brought up to Dad. I'm like, I am a little bit heavier, and then this tank is a little bit heavier yet, like 30 pounds heavy, which is on our tractor is a big deal. So I did eat a little too many cheeseburgers for last year. So this year I will be cutting down a little bit more. I need to get down to like a mini rod weight, like pretty low. So it's kind of undeniable who's going to drive,
The mini rod you're talking about now, huh?
I saw Ron Stone's ears perking up when you said the words mini rod. We've got the new class coming. Hey, Ty, you're talking about weight distribution. And one thing that always intrigues me about your tractor in 2025, you guys are still holding on to a very vintage kind of style in the triple stair-stepped, in a world where we're seeing everybody just push all 3. We're seeing the triple engine mod, that's becoming really popular across all associations, and they're slinging 2 on the front and 1 pushed up there as close as they can. Is there a secret for the balance? And you guys really just do a great job of keeping that balance, even though you're using, more of I don't want to say old school, because obviously something we don't because it's working, but just a pattern that you're not seeing on other tractors.
Yeah. I would say, if we were thinking logically, I think the smart move would be to move them all up front. There was a picture floating around today on Facebook. There's that 3 Chevy tractor stacked. I don't remember his name right now, but or just doing something like Cameron. When he puts 3 motors on, that's smart. They don't run into front end issues. But for us, it's just it would be a lot of work for us to change it. Not that it's impossible, but we keep finding pockets and places that we can pull weight from the rear end, put it on the front. The fuel tanks that we put on the motors, that was a huge help. So we're actually sitting really good. We're probably sitting the best we've ever been. But with the 3 in line, honestly, they're more convenient to work on. We can pull in the trailer. We can have one guy on each side wrenching, and starting them. It's pretty simple. So as far as that goes, like we just keep it that way because it's convenient. It works in our trailer, works for us. We know that tractor, the way that's configured that way. But obviously it works. Last 2 years, haven't gotten the championship, but I would say it's not junk. It still works. So just keep it around like that, and until we can't possibly find another ounce, which I think we're quite a few.
I know where you can find some, Ty.
Not eating cheeseburgers? Is that what you're going to say, Ron?
Not that.
Okay. All right.
But you guys would probably never do it. You'd never get rid of those old Keystone classics and put a lighter weight wheel on the front of that.
Those things are old. Not to call Grandpa old, but I think I don't know if these are the original sets, but they've got to be one of the originals. Probably 1984 model, I would say. So
probably older than that, even, I would bet.
The actual rims, yes, but they've probably been on the tractor since '84. So that's that was another topic of conversation too. You got to go to them small little what do they call them things, like little forklift tires.
Aviation
airplane tires. Yep. No, the Kraggers, I call them Kraggers, and I know that's wrong, but that's
wrong.
One of the most iconic aspects of the vehicle. Now, the vehicle itself was about 2021, 2022. It got quite a facelift. Kind of tell us about what went into that. It was such a recognizable design, and it's still, you guys stayed kind of true to the roots of it, but it got an update somewhere in there. I thought I saw those hanging in the back there, the original fenders.
Yep. So those have been on since '99. And that's actually when this chassis was built. So we didn't make any, we didn't change the frame rails, like the steel or anything. We just did a lot of weight moving and cutting and torching. We changed the roll cage. We moved the roll cage forward more, the seat forward more. We cut a lot of fat off of it, and the fenders are different, obviously. We lost a lot of weight there. Those are made out of they're pretty thin. I think they're 40 thousandths thick aluminum, and they're double-sided taped on, so they're pretty light. Aluminum frame. The old ones are thick steel and steel on both sides. So we lost a lot of weight there. But when you cut and torch and grind and add weights and moving stuff, obviously you're taking paint off and stuff. So this guy that knows how to paint brought up the idea that maybe we repaint the tractor. And so once we got all the fabrication stuff done, had it repainted. The roll cage, staring at it right now, I can see about 70 sander belts that we used to polish the chromoly steel that we used to make the cage. And then I clear coated it after. So doing a little bit of different stuff, but then at the same time, we were just trying to move weight forward. So
I love it.
Done eventually.
I mean, I love it when, a lot of the majority of the class is going the way of, the twin Hemis, just because, it's more expensive, but it's where the power is, and it's easy, and it makes sense. But I love it when you say, no, this is what we've got. Let's make them better. Yep. Let's show them we can still compete and still kick some butt with this old combination of these triple Chevys. So I love it. And I love it because it also, keeps some variety in the class as well. Yeah, we've got the twin turbines and things like that. But fans love the variety. They really do. Ty, Ben Beller has a question. Ben is on the show every Tuesday night. He says, any chance of putting in your application for the Farm Machinery Show?
So I went to the farm show for the first time, I think 3 years ago. And I got home, obviously, never been there, jacked up. I said, what do we have to do to get Sweet Pain into Freedom Hall? And you know what? I did get shut down a little bit. But having 3 Chevys, our Chevys make 2,000 horsepower apiece, so 6,000 total. To run competitively with those guys, you need about 9 to 10,000 horse.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so we would have to have about 5 Chevys on there. And, there's all this weight we're talking about. We have to come in at the same weight, but with 2 more motors. Yeah. So it becomes pretty tricky to do that. And honestly, it's a little bit impossible coming up with that weight. So that's the short answer. But maybe someday, maybe someday we'll put Hemis on and go there, or maybe they'll up the weight. I don't know. But it'd be pretty awesome.
Keith Hammonds with a suggestion. You could save 3 pounds by going to titanium rocker stands.
Yeah. Every pound helps. Yeah, every pound helps. We've switched from steel to titanium bell housing, so that was a huge help. But yeah.
What, somewhere from 10 to 15 pounds by going to some lighter wheels on the front? I mean,
yeah,
we're
start nickel and diming
here.
Yeah, every pound is definitely needed. So
Mark Ham says, evening, gentlemen. Speaking of Mark Ham, I want to show these pictures again. These were taken from 2024, this last season. Now, these pictures were taken by Mark Ham, or I should say picture.
That's Rock Valley.
Okay, yep, that is Rock Valley. Let me pull that remark off there so you can see those back tires wrinkling. I've never seen a picture that caught the wrinkle of the back tires as significantly as this one here. Can you see it there, Ty?
Yeah. We studied that picture pretty hard. We saw it right away. That was we tried the whole shot tires, and that was when we had them on, and that's what they were doing for us all year. But Mark got a good picture of it, so that's in a nutshell. That's what was going on with our tires. That's why we weren't doing so hot at the beginning of the year.
Yeah, I could pick that up on the tone of your voice there. You always see, if you watch like a light super stock or something and you're paying close attention, you can see the dust kind of settle on the wrinkles on the sidewall of the tire. So you always know that this is something that's going on. I'm gathering from you, this is maybe a little bit more extreme, that they're giving on the side more than you'd want it to. Tires were a big story in your class this year. I was talking to Kyle in the off season, and he was explaining how the different brands work better with different power plants. And I talked to Cameron in the middle of the season, and it was when he put a new set of tires on that kind of he turned the corner on his season. So, tell us about tires. Tell us about getting all that horsepower to the ground. What does Sweet Pain like on the back there?
Well, honestly, the set of tires that's sitting right there, I don't think that there's one tire brand that is the best. I think it's just the best for your tractor and your setup. So it's never like a shot at Mitas or a shot at Firestones or the whole shots. It's never about that. It's just about what works best for your tractor and your wheel speed and obviously the class that you're in. What we were finding with the set that we had, the sidewalls were giving up a little bit. And then you can see that the face of the tire was also, since the sidewall wasn't as stiff, the face was giving up. But if you look at the rest of the class, I mean, those whole shots, they worked. Everybody saw, some saw a little bit of improvement. And obviously in Cameron's case, he saw a big improvement. Not that he was shabby before, it just took his elite level and put him way on top. So we're gonna play around with that a little bit. this off season. You'll probably see us with a different set of tires on at the start of the season. Still going to stick with Pro Polars, but we're going to have 2 sets mounted so we can switch and change faster than we could have last year. But yeah, last year we were going to change a little bit sooner, but with the schedule of the season, it just didn't work out. Dad was slacking off. He had to go to Hawaii for a couple days, and so we had to work around his, schedule. But no, I'm just kidding. No, we probably would have changed him a little bit sooner, but we didn't. So
a few years ago, when you guys had made this, a change to the new Pro Polar tires at the time, I think that's what prompted all of the weight loss on the tractor, because that season, even though you guys won the points that year, you guys had a lot of really photographic runs with the nose just sky high in the air. The tires were hooking so hard you couldn't keep the front end down. What tires were those?
Yep. So those are Pro Polars. That was our first set of Pro Polars. We've had multiple. I'm going to call them Pro Polars, and I'll call them the whole shots because they're 2 different styles of tire. We've had a couple of sets of Pro Polars. Our first our original set from the Firestones, they put power to the ground over the Firestones, and we just couldn't believe the tracks that we were getting a hold of. And so what was going on there was we'd go to a track, we'd look at it, and we'd go, all right, well, the Firestones would do this or that. And we would put this front end weight and this gear ratio for this type of track. And it's like, man, is it really true that these Pro Polars would get a hold of this? And so what we'd always do is just kind of like split the difference or not put enough weight on, because you don't want to go out there and just nose on the ground, you're not going to go anywhere. And so every single time we hooked to the sled, we were just amazed on what they could hook up to. And, knowing what we know now, they're a lot more consistent than the Firestone. So we would swing weight, front to back, 300 pounds with the Firestones, 350 pounds, maybe even 400. With the Pro Polars, we don't do that. That cuts in half. I mean, we don't change a whole lot now from run to run. So it was just crazy. We just kept blowing our own minds, because we would do a wheel stand. One of us would come off the track and we'd go, well, that was a little bit too light. But we pride ourselves that we can drive out of that situation and not, outdo it or get squirrely, or, we always, Western Farm Show days, that track was always a little bit hard to get a hold of, and we were always pulling a bunch of weight off, and Dad would always say, like, we can always win on the wheelie bars. So he obviously worked out in Western Farm Show. So we kind of were like, oh, if we're a little light, so be it, as long as we don't really mess up the run. But
well, he just had the comment here a second ago. I saw it was up on the screen. He says, I can always win on the wheelie bars. And he goes, I love doing this is probably my favorite comment I've seen on Outlawed Live. I love doing big wheelies. Ty, how does your dad's driving style and your driving style? I mean, are you kind of one and the same, or do you each kind of have slightly different approaches?
So we all 3 try to do the same thing. Well, depending on the track, right? But no matter who's driving, we always have a plan. Like, this is how you're going to use the throttle. This is when you're going to rev it up to this point. You're going to, we're going to either bury it, we're going to drive it out. Like, nobody really has a driving style. Dad's definitely better on the throttle than I am. I have a tendency to either blow the tires off or kind of drag it out. I haven't mastered that. But sometimes Dad catches himself snoring behind the wheel and doesn't get on the brakes soon enough. So, besides Unionville last year, I'd say we did a really good job on the brakes all year long. But we pride ourselves on our driving style, I guess. Yeah. We talk about it a lot. We watch a lot of GoPro we've got a GoPro on there, so we watch a ton of film on ourselves. And then obviously nitpick everything that we do because I don't know if you guys saw that Facebook post. I think I shared it, but somebody else posted it. It was a video from Iowa State Fair. It was like pre-roll cage days, dusty, dirty, and the sweep pane was up and down.
Will Mann,
a little bit to the left, a little bit to the right.
Will Mann had that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I think I shared it and I made some comment of like, that doesn't win the mod class these days.
Yep. I remember that.
So true. That can't be any more true. So we really hound down on ourselves, and I wish it kind of was like that, so you could like mess up on the brakes a little bit and it wouldn't affect you, but that's not the Outlaw mods. That's not the case.
Yeah, I could see your dad as being the type of guy that he would lose sleep over some of this stuff, or he'd lay in bed at night just trying to think of things to do to the tractor or the engines. Am I right on that?
Yeah, we're the same person.
Yeah.
Good or bad, we're the same person. So yeah, we're definitely, and Grandpa too. We all contribute in our different ways. We all have different ideas. Not all of them are good ideas, but we're all thinking about it, and it's definitely our passion. Definitely something that we look forward to work on the weekends, and pulling can't come soon enough.
Yeah.
So, and you guys are getting pretty serious there in the shop. Tell us about the new addition to the shop there in Larchwood.
Yeah. So we have a pretty small shop. It's on Dad's acreage in Larchwood. So it's pretty small shop. Pretty much the only thing you can work on is sweep pane. Maybe you can probably pull a snowmobile in and work on that, but that's about as much room as we have. And hopefully it'll be done. But we're putting in an engine dyno for these Chevys. So we will be able to pull off the motor, keep the clutch on it, just as it was in the tractor. We're not going to change a thing. We're going to leave the fuel tank on, leave the clutch on, and basically pull it out of the tractor framework and put it into the dyno framework. And we're going to spend as much time as we can this off season, and hopefully more innovative stuff for next year. But yeah, I mean, I could probably flip the camera around. I don't know if I can or not, but it's basically a third of our shop. I'd say quarter of the shop, maybe. So
now, is that something you guys have done in the past before the season starts, is put a motor on a dyno, or is that something you haven't even done before?
So Dad and Grandpa went to an engine dyno in 2004. And that's when the motors were making 1,000 horse, 1,300 horse in that range. And they picked up quite a bit of power playing with the fuel system and stuff. And then I think it was 2015 or 2016, we went to another engine dyno, and the dyno wasn't big enough for our motors, and we actually ended up shearing some keys off in the dyno, so it broke it. So we weren't invited back. So we
whoops.
yeah. No,
Well, not every dyno operator will take a supercharged motor like that.
No, it's and especially on what the big block Chevy is not a new concept, but it's the fact that you're running alcohol, you have a supercharger with upright or vertical zoomies, and you're making 2,000 horsepower, and you want to take it to 8,000 RPM or 9,000 RPM. There you run into some issues. You're not working with carburetors, so you don't. Normally on a dyno, the air intake comes straight down from the ceiling, goes on top of a carburetor. But we don't have that. We have the outright. We've got the big butterflies, so you got to somehow hook onto those, or have enough room, or have enough air movement in the room for the amount of power you're making. So not a whole lot of people have something that's capable of that. So we wanted to do something that we could just put our own stuff on. We know it works. We know where we're at, and it's in our own shop. Hell, that's half the problem. Getting to the dyno, getting scheduled, and then you got you're gonna do it on the weekends probably. Friday, Saturday, come home on Sunday night. So, we can put the engine on a Tuesday night and, fiddle with things and adjust things, and then, Friday right after work we can be making a pull.
Yeah.
So
and tinker with it as much as you want and not have to worry about that clock ticking and eating the dollars out of your wallet there.
Yeah, it was a really bad idea on our part because the wives and the fiancés, they're not going to be super happy with us. We're going to spend a lot of time on this thing, and we already have just building it, but it'll be for the better, I think. It'll be worth it.
Parade Alley Lounger says, don't change a thing, cheeseburgers and Busch Light all day long. He's all good with Dick.
You're speaking my love language.
Yeah.
Dick Blankensport says he remembers your grandpa pulling a single engine mod with a Massey 44 rear end.
Yep. That was the first mod. It was a 396, and it bolted right up to the 44 Massey.
And then, that 44 Massey probably couldn't have taken a whole lot more than that 396, probably.
No, actually not. That tractor was rated for, God, what did Grandpa say? Rated for 75 horse, if I remember right. and his motor made 300 or 400 horse, something like that. So
yeah.
I don't know what those parts looked like, but they probably didn't look very good. So
he probably turned one part into multiple pieces of parts very quickly.
Yeah.
So
yeah, he had multiplication going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kevin Davis, I knew he couldn't stay quiet for long here. People need to get fired up for 2025. Outlaws have a great schedule. Wayne County Fair in Wayne, Nebraska. Glad to have the Outlaws back.
Oh yeah.
And Mark Crowley checking in, saying good evening. Let's see. Austin Fluid, is that one of your buddies, Austin?
Yep.
He says I think he means just ask Lee for a stall if you need more room.
So Lee is our title sponsor, Richard's Repair.
Oh, gotcha.
And so there's a video floating out there of the tractor on a dyno, a wheel dyno. So that's what he's referring to.
Oh, gotcha.
But it's for trucks. It's a wheel dyno for trucks. But Richards, they work on everything. If you have a feedlot, you're likely a customer at Richards Repair. So they're doing Volvos, they're doing payloaders, everything, excavators, you name it, scrapers.
Kurt Van Beek commented. He said it's not just tire repair there. There are engines and engine repair and everything repair there.
Engine overhauls. Yep. Oh yeah. Yep. They got the wheel dyno there too now, so you can get an overhaul done and then go on the engine dyno and they'll tune it up for you, make sure it's broken. So
now, Craig he commented, said in addition to the dyno, you got a TIG welder, CNC milling machine, dyno, fuel flow bench, repeat, etc. It sounds like he's advertising here.
No. That's silly.
I was curious about that. If you're building the dyno that's going to handle you accidentally built a great commercial. You were like, hey, here's a needed product to an underserved market. Here's exactly what we're capable of doing. And then I could read it on your brow. You're like, no, hold on. This is the Sweet Pain R&D exclusive. This is for
Yes, it on our front door it says "Do not enter." So it's like Back to the Future when they're welding and fabricating in that shop, and they're walking up to the door and it's all like bright lights. That's what it looks like in Larchwood at about 9-10 o'clock at night on a weekend. It's like there's wizards in here just crafting anything we could do to make more power.
Working magic, wizards working magic, man.
Yeah.
I've already reserved some time on the dyno in there though, and I've got the special pass to get me in. See,
special
Oh
pass.
yeah, he's got the key.
That's about the cheapest part on the tractor is what Ron's wearing, is the hat. Yeah.
the honorary member of the Ulmer Mafia. Ron is wishing that he could be the tag along member of the Ulmer Mafia.
Yeah. Well, the biggest thing that we've got going with the dyno, and I guess I'm glad you brought it up. If you've been on the dyno before, so obviously the challenges of actually getting scheduled and getting on the dyno, it's obviously hard to do and hard to work around work schedules and stuff. But besides all that, it's like we don't know when we change something on the tractor, we don't necessarily know how much power that made. Did it make 5 horse or did it make 50 horse? And so we only have like a few indicators that can tell us if it made more power or not. And so obviously we dream of having our own dyno and being able to know that if we change something in the heads or in the blower or, change the stroke or whatever we end up changing, we know that it made a measurable amount. So we are going to go, we're a guru about it already. We got so many sensors that we're going to plug into the thing, and we're going to be able to put that thing and make it a thumper. So
awesome. Mark Ulmer from Minnow, South Dakota, has a question. He wants to know if he can bring the motor from the weapon over to test the dyno's capabilities.
Yeah, I can't even spell diesel, so Mark, no, probably not. No.
It's IE, right? Is it EI or IE?
I don't even know. I don't know. I don't want to know,
man.
to be honest. What's that thing? That thing that puts the fuel in, like an injector or something? I don't know. We only know spark plugs. So
as I say, you're holding on to all these spark plugs, saying, "Where do I put these? Where do these go?"
Yeah.
That's
I don't know.
stuff.
It might be able to handle it.
But see there.
We're gonna try the Chevys first.
Sure.
Awesome.
Sure.
Awesome. Well, Ty, man, thanks so much for coming on tonight, dude. We had another guest lined up and they canceled about 25 minutes before showtime. And I thought, man, let's try this. We knew we were having you on in the spotlight for when the smoke clears. And I thought, if he's available, let's bring him on right after Mike does his piece and does your bio. I thought it would tie in well. So tie in. You see what I did there, Mike?
Oh, well done. You gotta be on your toes with Ron's he'll work those in, like when we were announcing at Wayne and you were, I don't remember it, you were making a bunch of cleared for takeoff puns on that. So you gotta watch out, folks. Ron, he's got the clever ones in there.
Every once in a while, I'll surprise you. But
about like that chicken getting a little cocky down there down in Lufkin.
Austin, hang on. Austin asked, did Eleanor get sold? If so, is it staying in the Outlaws?
I saw it was for sale. I raised my eyebrows and I hadn't had a chance to talk to him. Ty, what do you know about the blue tractor?
I don't know. I was asking about it. Grandma had her 70th birthday on Saturday. She had her party in Menno, and I was asking, but not exactly sure. Not exactly sure the plans there.
I talked to Mark late last week. I think it was Friday even. He said it had not sold, and the only calls he got on it were people trying to pick his brain about what makes it tick. So those are the only calls he was getting, but no takers yet.
I would say there's one great way to find out, you write the check and you can look at every last bit of it as close as you want. Hey, Ty, do me a favor, break down the Ulmer Mafia for me and for all of our viewers out here. So, of course, there's Mark and Tyler and there's Alan. Who's who? Who all connects to who here?
Mike, get your pen out so you can
I've got it. No.
All right, buddy.
I'm 100%.
Ulmer Mafia family tree. Okay.
Yep.
So you've got the brothers. Start with the brothers.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got Kurt, you've got Mark, and you've got Gary. Those are the 3 brothers. And they have changed, they've pulled and quit pulling and throughout the years, but those 3 have all had at one point their own tractor. And so if you break that down, you've got Kurt, so that's my dad. Craig, that's his dad. So my grandpa. So you've got Kurt and Craig and Ty. And then you've got, so that's Sweet Pain.
Yep.
So Sweet Pain is only us three. We don't work on anything else in the Ulmer Mafia. I mean, we'll do like little parts here and there, but we're Sweet Pain. And then you've got Mark. Mark has a son named Tyler.
Yep.
Not Ty, Tyler. So Tyler and Mark, they've got they've got a lot of pulling vehicles. The majority of the Ulmer Mafia is in Mark's stable. So they've got Eleanor, they've got the weapon, and honestly, I don't know what else. They've got the Lost at one point. I'm sure that's still in the shop.
Mini Rod.
Mini Rod. They've got they've had that Ellis Chalmers at one point. That I don't know. You're gonna have to ask Mark every tractor he's got or what he's working on, but that's that stable. So Tyler usually drives Eleanor. Typically, if you see Tyler driving, he's probably driving Eleanor.
I'd met Mark and Tyler. Mark and Tyler were some of the first people that I'd met, and I just didn't know who connected to who and how.
Yep.
So,
and then you've got the third brother, and that's Gary. I've never seen Gary drive. Maybe he has before. I'm not sure. They're the newest to the Mafia, and then their son is Alan. Alan drives. As far as I know, Alan's the only driver of their tractor. They used to have the cast iron tractor in the limited light super now, called the Midnight Mistress. And that I don't know if that won a championship or not, but they did a lot of winning with that, and then sold that, and they got into the light super class, and now it's never enough. So that's the three kind of.
And Alan runs snowmobiles. He's a big snowmobile guy too, right? Or do you guys all kind of do a little bit in that?
Yeah, me and Dad have snowmobile. Alan and Gary. So Gary was I might have this wrong, but not exactly what his job title was, but he was building and working with Yamaha on developing their race program. And so Yamaha and snowmobiles in general run deep into their side of the family, or the Gary and Alan. Gary used to race snowmobiles, like straight line on grass or on ice or snow. He used to have a machine shop in Yankton, and so he was building parts for that, and then obviously whatever comes in the door for machine shop work. And then Alan kind of took that a little bit over, and he's got a shop in Menno, and so he's doing a decent amount of machine work for guys, custom pulling parts or snowmobiling parts. Not exactly sure all he's building, but he's mainly an ATV, UTV, snowmobile repair shop. So I'd say his bread and butter is that repair stuff, but then obviously the high performance snowmobile stuff, they're still gun ho about. So
awesome. Zip Fukerberg, of course, that's Doug's vote. Says hello and wants to know if you're ready to go pulling yet. I think you've answered that throughout the show here.
I was ready November 1 last year. I want to take Cameron down, so we're coming. We're coming after that.
I didn't ask you because I knew it was going to be a dumb question. I normally say, "What's your goals for the 2025 season?" I can feel it that it is. You haven't had a points championship in a year or two, and that is, you're ready to get back on top, and that's what I love about this sport, and that's what I love about your guys' operation. But so what are your expectations? 2025, you feeling that this year is the stars are going to align?
Well, the standard around here is winning the championship. What comes with winning all the championships is you get second place 2 years in a row, and people ask, what happened? What's the deal? What's going on? And it's like, we had 5 wins. We had 7 top 2 finishes. It's like, and we changed tires halfway through, and we had some engine troubles in the beginning of the year, and it's like, and we still came out in second. It's like, what's the deal, you know? But that's our standard, and that's what we've kind of created for ourselves. So obviously, expectation is to take down that Cameron dude, and then kind of hopefully we can hold our ground against everybody else because Donald's right there. Vern is sneaky. He comes in at the worst times and just takes it right from you. I know the Turban guys are going to show up and they're going to kick our butt once in a while. Urban, I know he's
Wayne's
got it.
no stranger to winning pulls, you know. So
yeah, you've got how many years of experience there, you know? It's like, and then you screw up on the brakes one time and you can lose all of that. So obviously standard and the expectation win championship, and hopefully we've got more power for next year, and hopefully can put it to the ground with what we have for tires. So
yeah, I think it's going to be a great mod class this year. You know,
oh man,
Donald has a third mod now that's going to be out there.
Yeah.
Of course, Dustin's going to be driving one of the mods. I'm not sure which one yet. You know, I've already heard.
You know, Doug's commenting right here, and of course, he's got his new setup that I think once that thing gets dialed in, watch out. So
he's kind of calling you out here. I think he said, hopefully the Griffin will have some competition for class.
Oh, jeez.
I don't know. Woo.
It's getting fun on Outlawed Live.
He already knows the answer to that question. Yeah.
Hopefully we'll see him out a little more.
Yeah.
And he'll come north and pull with us. So
yeah,
I've heard some really good things of some guys that we don't normally see going to come play with us a little more this summer. So
you know what though, I was told in Wisner this year, I don't remember if it was Friday or Saturday night, by some guys that run some NTPA, and they come play with us once in a while, and they told me that they come and play with the Outlaws to kind of set their own, you know, where they're at in the pulling world, because they know that if they come run with the Outlaw mods, that they're going against the best. And so they're completely happy with getting top 5 because they know that that is the best. And so when they go back running NTPA or PPL or wherever they're going, you know, they kind of know where they're at in the whole scheme of things. So that's pretty, you know, that makes us feel good, and it shines light on the Outlaw mods. I feel like we don't get enough credit for the shows we put on and the caliber of guys we've got. But
yeah, that's you know, when you know, I talked to Donnie Sullivan a lot and talked to him into coming to Whitewright, you know, last season, and they had so much fun. And you know, talking to him throughout the season, he's like, you know, we just might come to Lufkin. I want to take another shot at those guys, you know. And they had a blast pulling with us.
Yeah, and those, you know, other associations, they're watching, and other pullers are watching. You know, maybe they're not in the same, you know, obviously we have 3 Chevys. We can't go to 7, you know, like I was saying earlier about the Louisville thing. Obviously we can't run with some of those guys, but there's eyeballs on this mod class, and people know what's going on, and people understand that you better show up with your A game, because it's a really tough class to be in.
Yeah, you could definitely. I mean, the fans can even see that. You guys, I mean, are running right on the ragged edge there in that class, and yeah, the competition is awesome. So, what do you hold in your hand? Is that a weapon? Is that a Ulmer Mafia? Is that what you used to?
Yeah, it's the Hemi. It's the Hemi Hurton.
Hemi Hurter.
No, this is so this is going to be the throttle for the dyno. But
how fun is that?
Yeah, but it's a little bit more than that. This is one of, believe it or not, there's only 7 in the box. But this was the first set of aluminum rods that ever went into sweet pain. So this is one of the rods. So we're going to put that on the dyno as our throttle.
Awesome.
So
I wonder what happened to that 8th rod, Mike.
I don't know. You know, we should have put an air tag tacker, or, you know, an air tag on it. We'll see where it's at. But it's probably morphed into one of these, you know. Yeah.
Rub it in a pulling track somewhere.
Yeah. It was in a frame rail, then ended up in a vacuum, you know. It's just, but no, we're pretty excited about this dyno. We're all giddy about it. We've got the fuel flow bench behind me too, so we can test our fuel systems on it. We don't have anything special for a fuel system. It's not anything different than, well, everybody does it different, but for the most part, our mechanical system isn't much different. But we've got the fuel flow bench behind us. We know where our fuel pumps are at, and we know how much pressure is at what RPM, and we do a lot of playing around with that. You can really change the heartbeat of that motor by changing the fuel system. So we just wanted to know, where we're at and what it can do. So we got a lot of toys in this shop, and we're running out of space. So we're looking for a sponsor for next year to help us add on so we can add more toys. So
there you go. Awesome. Well, you guys keep doing what you're doing. And Craig says, follow us at Sweet Pain Pulling, Sweet Pain Pulling Team on social media. Ty, thanks for coming on tonight, buddy. This has been awesome.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Tell your mom and dad hi, and your grandma and grandpa as well. And
sounds good.
Summer will be here before you know it, man. We'll see you soon.
Sounds good.
We appreciate it. Later. Best of luck. Thank you for filling that out. When the smoke clears, tell everybody in your class that this is something we want to do for every last competitor. And like your dad says, follow them on social media. You guys do a great job on social media. That's something that the fans love. So best of luck in 2025. We know what the expectations are. We'll see what's going to happen, man.
Thanks, Ty.
Yep. Catch you later, guys.
Have a good one. Yeah, that worked out well.
That did. Yeah, that's fun. That might be something that we might explore from time to time. It was neat to have our first live react to When the Smoke Clears, to double down with a guest. And boy, talk about someone who knows his ins and outs of tractor pulling. Perfectionists is what that team definitely is. And it's proven on the track every year.
Yeah. When I made that comment about, Craig laying in bed at night, thinking of things, and I know that they're like that. You ever seen the memes on social media where the man and the woman are laying in bed and they're facing
probably thinking about other girls.
Pop up. I wonder if he's thinking about some other woman and he's over there thinking about pulling tractors or something.
Gear ratios, fuel compression, and whatnot, and stuff like that. You know what I liked? Because I advocate for this a lot. That the mechanical side is not my background, but the sporting and the competitive side is something that I really understand. So when he talked about basically the essence of going back to game film and say, like, we watch our GoPro, we watch, our throttle control, we watch how we as drivers, and they're using the film. I like that. That's something that just makes a lot of sense to me, and you can fine tune it. And it was neat too, the way he talked about how all three drivers strive to drive the tractor the same. That way you're not making changes. You take that equation out of it and you just drive for the consistency, but it matters. You could see him kind of holding that piston rod right there, kind of shaking a little antsily that he's ready to be back on top again. It's going to be, Cameron's not going to roll over, and no one else in this class is either. It's going to be fun to watch this one shake out this summer.
And of course, Mark Ham says he's amazed how white and crisp their crew shirts are.
I've always thought that.
Summer. I'd get ketchup on it even if I didn't eat anything. Isn't that the truth? So I am the same way. Yeah, that's I could have it wrapped. I could have a cheeseburger wrapped up in foil and taking just little nips off of it, and I'd get mustard and ketchup all over whatever.
They're a professional outfit, and I love that they do that. They're out there in their crew shirts, they're buttoned up, they're studying that track. They're if you pay attention, if you're out there watching that track, they're looking at the track a lot. They're one of those teams that it's not too hard to find them because they're usually studying something at the pulling track.
And Craig said he got that from his dad, how to wake up in the middle of the night and thinking about what's next. Yeah, I know exactly how that works. I've been there, done that. But all right, Mike, thanks a lot. We went over a little bit. We got a show and a quarter in here, so we can.
That was a fun one. That was a fun one.
Early next week, right?
Yep. I'm glad that you got him lined up. I'm glad he came on. That was a fun experience chatting with Ty.
Yeah, we'll get Kim on in a couple of weeks. I already rescheduled that for 2 weeks from tonight. She had something come up, family related, and it happens. Hey, life happens.
Oh yeah.
And we're going to take care of those great sponsors and the people behind the sponsorship. So next week we got a good show lined up. We've got Wade from Kaiser Aluminum Wheels coming on next week, and another guest coming on as well. So we'll do that as a surprise. How about that? So
all right.
I kind of surprised you tonight, didn't I? I wasn't going to tell you who was going on.
No, I got a kick out of that. That was fun. That was I like a good little springboard. So and it's fun to pick their brains. They're just the Ulmers. A lot of wins, a lot of pulling history with the Ulmer family. So
I thought you might have picked up on what I was doing when I went backstage there for a minute.
No.
And then I came back and I was wearing a different hat. I didn't know if you caught that or not.
You give me too much credit, Ron Stone. You'd had to put like blinking flashers on it for me to have noticed that quickly enough.
Noted. All right, Mike, thanks so much for coming on tonight. Big thanks to Ty Ulmer and the whole Sweet Pain team out there. And thanks to all the fans out there, all the Outlaw super fans out there in Outlaw Nation. This show is the numbers just are off the charts. And the folks that tune in and week out, love all of you out there. So big thanks to all the fans out there in Outlaw Nation. We'll see you next Tuesday night on Outlawed Live.
Champion just a few years back, Craig Ulmer and Sweet Pain.